So picture this. It's 591 BC. A group of Israelite elders shows up to see the prophet Ezekiel, probably hoping for some encouraging word from God. But what they got was something else entirely. They got a divine history lesson, a blistering review of their nation's centuries-long rebellion. And it kicks off with a judgment that is just incredibly direct. And this quote, man, it gets right to the heart of God's message. There's no ambiguity here. He's saying, you rebelled, you broke the deal, and you deserve to be completely wiped out right then and there in the wilderness. Seems pretty open and shut, right? Case closed. But that brings up a really big question, doesn't it? I mean, think about it. If that was the verdict, why are these elders even here, centuries later, to hear about it? Why does the nation of Israel still exist at all? And that's the puzzle at the center of this whole prophecy. Unpacking the answer reveals one of the most powerful truths in all of Scripture. Okay, so to really get why God held back, we first have to wrap our minds around the sheer scale of the rebellion. God tells Ezekiel to lay out the entire case against them, and he starts right at the beginning, like immediately after they were miraculously rescued from slavery in Egypt. Now, this is what's so fascinating. Listen to how God frames his own law. It wasn't supposed to be some crushing burden. He says, if you do these things, you will live. These rules, these instructions, they were meant to be a gift, a blueprint for a thriving life with the very God who had just saved them. And you can just see the disconnect right away. It's night and day. On one side, you have this incredible gift, laws that lead to life, and the Sabbath, a special sign of their unique relationship with God. And on the other side, immediate total rejection. They didn't just stumble a little. The text says they despised the rules and greatly polluted the Sabbaths. So you'd think the next generation would get the memo, right? I mean, God literally warns them, hey, don't be like your parents, follow my ways. But nope. It's like a carbon copy. The exact same pattern repeats. They rebelled, they walked away, and they polluted the sign of the covenant. The cycle was already locked in. Okay, so now we're 2 generations deep in open rebellion, which brings us right back to our big question. Why were they spared? The answer has absolutely nothing to do with Israel being special or deserving. It has everything to do with God's character. You start to see this phrase pop up again and again, for my name's sake. It is the key that unlocks this entire chapter. God says for both generations that he pulled back his hand not because they deserved it, but for his own name. So the big question is, what does that actually mean? Well, it means the whole world was watching. God had just pulled off the spectacular, impossible rescue from Egypt, the superpower of the day. If he then immediately destroys the people he just saved, what are the other nations going to say? They'd conclude Israel's God was either weak or flaky or just couldn't finish what he started. God's global reputation was on the line. And you know, this isn't some one-off idea in Ezekiel. This theme is woven throughout the entire Bible. Moses uses this exact argument to intercede for Israel twice. The prophet Isaiah talks about it. And even later in Ezekiel, God promises to restore Israel for this very same reason. It's a foundational idea. God is zealous to protect his own reputation for being faithful.
But just because God held back from destroying them doesn't mean there weren't consequences. Oh no. And that leads us to maybe the most shocking and difficult verse in this entire indictment.
Just let that one sink in. After clearly stating that his laws bring life, God says he gave them statutes that were not good and rules that would not lead to life. It sounds like a complete contradiction, doesn't it? This is the question that just screams out from the page. Is the prophet actually saying that God authored and commanded them to do evil things, like the child sacrifice mentioned in the very next verse? It's a really troubling thought. And the answer is a clear no. This isn't God commanding them to sin. This is actually a form of divine judgment. He didn't force them to adopt evil laws. He judicially gave them up to follow the destructive path they had already chosen for themselves. Think of it this way. After generations of Israel rejecting his life-giving laws and choosing the death-dealing practices of the nations around them, God's judgment was to just let go of the reins, to, in effect, say, all right, you want those laws so badly? Have them. See where they lead you. It's a terrifying kind of judgment, where the punishment for sin is the freedom to fall even deeper into it. And this is the moment where the history lesson suddenly becomes a mirror. Ezekiel isn't just talking about long-dead ancestors anymore. He pivots and points the indictment directly at the elders sitting right there in front of him. You see, the cycle never stopped. Once they were in the Promised Land, the rebellion actually got worse. They saw all the pagan places of worship on every high hill, and instead of destroying them, they just joined the party. They started offering their sacrifices there, provoking God in the very land he had given them. And then comes the direct hit. Ezekiel looks right at the elders and asks, "Are you polluted in the exact same way your fathers were?" He's making it painfully clear. This long history of failure, it's your history. The reason you're in exile isn't some accident. It's the bill finally coming due for generations of this exact same behavior. Finally, God moves beyond their actions, the polluted Sabbaths, the idols on the hills, and he exposes the very root of their rebellion. He reveals the forbidden desire that was hidden deep in their hearts all along. See, this wasn't just about stumbling into sin or being tempted by cool foreign gods. God's final accusation is that their entire unfaithfulness was driven by one core desire, a desire to stop being who God had called them to be. And there it is, the secret wish, spoken out loud. We will be as the heathen. They didn't want to be a holy nation. They didn't want to be set apart. They just wanted to blend in, to be just like everyone else, serving the same powerless gods of wood and stone. This was a rejection of their identity, their covenant, their entire reason for being. And this is the ultimate tension of the chapter. Their deepest desire was to be cut loose, to be released from their unique relationship with God. But as the prophecy continues, it becomes clear that for the sake of his own name, that is the one thing God will absolutely refuse to let them do.